Okay, great. So our next presenter is Adam Ridgway from One Moto. Adam's been working on delivering an exciting electric vehicle solution to the UAE and beyond. And that idea is now coming to fruition. So Adam, please tell us more.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to introduce you to One Moto and the future of mobility. And I want to start off with a quote that when I read it, really sort of affected me and got me thinking. And that is, we're the first generation to be affected by climate change and the last to actually be able to do something about it. So we're very much focused on the opportunity of mobility, surrounding ourselves with sustainability, not just in the product of electric vehicles, but also that closed loop sustainability, which I'll go through. So we are the UAE's and the region's first and only approved, certified, registered on the road electric vehicles. And 90% of our business is driven by B2B. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on this evening. So the problems or the opportunities we like to think that we solve and address are the environment, investment, time. And as I said, everything is surrounding sustainability. It's not just green labeling what we're doing, but it's a measurable impact. So the greatest killer of humanity, which many may realize, is air pollution. But what many don't know is that motorcycles produce 50 times more hydrocarbons than SUVs or buses. And if we take the UAE, which is our primary market and our primary focus for the first couple of years, we have 15,000 delivery motorcycles. We've all seen them, the Uber, Careem and Talabat and so on, all of those food aggregators. They're producing 16,500 tons of CO2 a year. But that to us doesn't really mean anything. But when I say it's the same as 273,000 trees grown for 10 years, to absorb that amount of CO2 each year is shocking. So the one mission we have is to switch all delivery vehicles in the UAE electric by 2024. And we've got a great relationship with the...
I'm just going to jump in. So we've had a few comments. There's a color panel on the bottom right hand of the screen. If you could just minimize that.
There's a what?
On top of your presentation. There's a little color wheel at the bottom of your presentation. If you could minimize that. We've had a couple of comments in the chat.
A color wheel?
Yeah, it's in the bottom of your screen. It's just, yeah, there you go.
Sorry, yeah, thanks ever so much.
Perfect. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's great. I appreciate it. So when we look at how we make a difference and why we're loved, and the government, as I said, we've got a lovely relationship. They're not required in any way to invest in infrastructure because of the way our vehicles are built. So most EV companies require the public or private sector investment in smart chargers and so on. We increase the safety of riders, and we meet 5 out of the 6 smart city directives as per the Green Initiative. Operators and aggregators, we reduce their OPEX by up to 50%. And all of our vehicles are built interconnected. So they transmit a huge amount of data, which then provides the government aggregators more of an optimized routing system, as well as the private users to manage their own family of vehicles. So we also increase the rider well-being. And by that, I mean, put more money into the riders' pockets, but also reduce the amount of pressure of the amount of deliveries that they have to do every single day. And the riders love it because they don't have to pay for their own fuel. There are no fuel costs, where currently they can be paying up to 450 dirhams a month. There's no servicing, no maintenance. There's increased safety and training. So from the data that we pull from the vehicles, if a rider's been too aggressive or too passive in their riding, we can offer and initiate training. We reduce the work pressure because as they're working 12 or 14 hours a day, they don't need to do that because they don't have the downtime, which then gives them a higher pay, the less cost of rental that many have to lease their own vehicles. So we look at some research. The UAE food service industry alone is 13 billion. The food delivery industry is $450 million market. So that's really what we're looking at. And it's one of 3 high growth industries. So you've got meditech, fintech, and delivery and e-commerce. The stats for the UAE, it's a very high cost of acquisition. It's about 30 dirhams, so just over $6. And the cost of delivery that the likes of us, the customers, pay is around 7 dirhams, so just under $2. And the delivery riders, they're paying for fuel and lease of the vehicle just under $400 a month. And then we took the research a little bit further to find if the values we've built our business on resonant with the values or the sustainable values of the residents of the UAE. So we asked them a question: if you were to order a pizza and that food is delivered at the same time at the same price, would you choose a company that's sustainable or one that isn't? Now, it's not that unsurprising that 99.3% said, I would choose a sustainably focused business. But what was surprising when we followed it up with another question is, would you pay more for that? 76% yes, and it was 5.8 dirhams more that they would pay for a sustainably delivered product. So we're unique. By that, I mean, we have swappable batteries. It's one of our values of convenience. You can charge them anywhere with any 3 or 2 pin socket, depending on where you are in the world. Zero emissions, noise and air, which come, as you know, with all EVs. We have first mover advantage. We realize that's not going to last forever. That's why we need to capitalize on it now. And we make sure that all of our vehicles produced across the entire fleet are cost effective and will pay for themselves within 12 months. We like to think of them as a smartphone on wheels with data-driven technology, data-driven electric vehicles. And we have demo bikes in the country and on the roads. The app and software that's in development will help, as I said earlier, manage the fleets of the vehicles from the operator level. It also encourages the amount of green miles and measures the amount of green miles, the amount of CO2 reduction, not just CO2, but the NOx and the carbon, and what your contribution is to, say, the environment. When you start multiplying, not just the 1 vehicle or 2 vehicles from an individual, but on fleets, where we're looking at 15,000, that's a huge measurable impact on society, on the environment and the government. And it, I suppose, increases the free PR value that the early adopters of our customers are able to leverage. So our target market, we look at phase 1, and it's the food delivery aggregators, fleet operators that have sort of multiple fleets on a last mile or last minute delivery, but also on long term. And then we're looking at grocery and pharmacy. There's 150 delivery bikes that are just focused on pharmacy deliveries on the roads each day. And we're looking at a 22 million revenue, which equals a 10% market share by the end of next year. And we can achieve this by just replacing the vehicles that are owned by the food delivery aggregators. So that's where we've been able to measure the 10% market share. We only have 30 customers, and we've spoken to around 25 of them so far. And why the UAE? I get asked this a lot. As I said, it's a very high growth market. It's the measurable impact and the vision of the UAE and the leaders of the UAE to make a difference is vast, to really embed ourselves in the GCC and then allow us international expansion. And these huge mandates that are coming out of the government, and we're working alongside them to possibly offer subsidies and discounts for switching their vehicles to electric. We have 3 exit strategies. We've got private sale in 3 or 5 years, and then we're working towards an IPO on the DFM NASDAQ in 4 years. So we've got a 100-city expansion plan by 2028. As I said, these are some of the sustainably focused companies that we're already in conversations with. The volumes of vehicles to date, as of the start of the start of 2020, we're speaking about 44.3 thousand vehicles for the region. We're going through a raise at the moment with Eureeca, which you all realize because you're here and you joined in. We've won a couple of awards and awaiting the answer on one, which is from the RTA. We won an RTA Innovation Award, one with Dubai Chamber of Commerce, and now we're looking at the 3rd. And we've raised or sold in sales and MOU $871,000 as of January this year. If we look at the cost of ownership, this gives you all of the costs of a petrol vehicle, including the purchase price, the fuel, service and maintenance, even the delivery box, the SALIC and registration. The SALIC, for those that don't know, is the toll, the tag. And you look at the cost over 1 year and then 3 years, just for the petrol motorcycle, of which there's 3 competitors, Yamaha, Bajaj and Honda. And then you take the same cost for 3 years with a one moto vehicle. How our vehicles have been designed are modular. And by that, we're looking at creating a very sustainable ownership option that you can replace your parts of the vehicle, keep the same frame as long as it's intact, keep the same parts, and just replace the parts of the vehicle at any time. So that vehicle is going to last you a lot longer than the 2-year lifespan of the current petrol vehicles. Then we look at the Nissan Urban or the Toyota Hiace, and then you look at those costs, just the purchase price. You can double your fleet in 1 year for the same price as you're currently paying. And that includes the conversions of the chilled grocery unit, if that's what you were going for. So the cost of ownership is far less with electric. So we've got a great team. We've got Faris Al-Mazroui, who's my Emirati business partner. He really pioneered and championed Tesla and, to bring them into the region. He's a huge EV enthusiast. He set up the Electric Vehicle Owners Association. So he's a great team member to have on board. We have Harry, who's Marcoms and general manager, working very closely with our brand and position our brand where we want to be. And we've aligned our brand with what Apple is for communication, what Moto is for mobility. So taking that alongside Mini for that fun and playful element, and then Ray-Ban for the attitude. That's what we're positioning ourselves with the brand. And then we have Amit, ex-public relations for the public sector and government and Dubai Carbon. So he's very much focused on renewable energy. And then the team extends. Engineers, designers, PR, online marketplace that we're looking at the UK. We're in discussions with other countries and cities at the moment. And then we've secured the insurance partner, the after sales and the dealership. The two missing pieces are distribution for expansion and then the digital marketing side. Our defensibility, we are first to market. And as I said, we realize it won't last forever. We're certified, we've got the design IP. There's a high barrier for entry. It took us 18 months just to get registered and certified by the authorities here. But our phase 1 biggest target is making sure that we build a market. Phase 2 is exciting, and that will come with our proof of concept and proof of market build. And that's where we'll have a UAE manufacturing. We're looking at 3D printed vehicles using recycled material. And we've got this modular design, so you can replace the parts, one vehicle, just keep replacing the parts, and you can have a new vehicle when you need. If we look at the timelines of success, just over the next 12 months, I've made bold a couple of the sort of pivotal landmarks, and we're looking to finance with a partner to offer a lease to own option, so a credit facility for a lease to own. We're looking at 180 biker sales, which are the delivery bikes by Q1. If we could take that to Q3, we'll double that, or over double that to 500 sales, and then we will achieve 10% market share. And we'll be looking at pre-selling 5,000 of our new 3D printed recycled vehicles. And then some of the milestones include various different relationships and country launches. The investment, we've got 6 items on the left of where we're going to be spending the raise. And that's also including the 2,750 vehicles revenue that we're looking to generate to acquire that 10% market share. We operate a negative cash conversion cycle, and we operate a 46 to 52% profit margin. The financial model, in terms of vehicles, there's four revenue streams. So direct sales, 1,500. Leasing, we'll be looking at 2,250. That is dependent upon our credit finance and the partners that we're in discussions with, hopefully secure that by the end of October. And then battery banks. This is adding to the convenience, where a rider within 10, 20 seconds can swap out their batteries for a fully charged one and carry on for 100 dirhams a month, so around $36 a month. That gives us a residual income. If we just sell a vehicle, we're not going to be seeing our customers for 3 years. We need to make sure that we have that residual income. And then we'll be looking at dealerships. So by the end of next year, we'll be expanding through a dealership and distributor network. And this is how it works, or this is how those numbers translate into financials. So where we are, we're currently a pre-money valuation of $8 million. We're raising $500,000. We've got a very dominant position with our first mover advantage. We've got pilots confirmed with some of the region's largest players. So thank you very much for your time. And I'm open to answer as many questions as I can.
Thank you, Adam. And we do have some questions that have come in immediately. So the first one, so our head says, what is the range in kilometers for the delivery motorbike per charge?
It's between 150 and 180 kilometers dependent upon where you ride. So as you may know, the inner city rides will get more kilometers or more range. When you're on the open road with all EVs, that reduces. So it depends on the riding style, but also we've got this wonderful formula. And we actually started building the bike with Kareem. We said, what do you need from a delivery bike? And range was very important. And then we had to get that equation between range and speed. And currently in the market as it stands, no one has got the same range and speed that we have.
Great. And then we've got three questions from another investor. So first of all, what is your background? Where do you manufacture your products? And what is your margin? So we can take those one by one, I guess. So maybe start with the background.
Yeah, so my background, I've had 20 odd years in media. I've run my own media or selection of 4 media agencies, successful startups, all modest, but they're built as lifestyle businesses. So media in Dubai for the past 12 years now I've been here. And one was a video production, one was an advertising branding agency. We have a casting agency, which was the first time in Hollywood history casting was done for a feature film online. And then Travel, which was a video content production company for the travel and tourism industry. That's really my background.
Okay, and then it was where
the profit margin was 40. We've got a contract with a factory in China that produces all of our vehicles exclusively for us. And I said that's phase 1. Phase 2 is then looking at a UAE manufacturing plant. Although we have been approached and in discussions, very, very early days, with potentially opening up a part manufacturing, part assembly plant in Saudi. And a profit margin 46 to 52%.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we've covered those 3. So some questions on the batteries. How long does the battery last on average, and how long does it take to fully charge?
Okay, the last in terms of lifetime, we've got a guarantee of 1,000 cycles, which is about 3 years, and it takes around 4 to 6 hours to fully charge. So if some of our customers are buying multiple batteries, so they can swap those in and out, there's the charging time of 80% charge in 1 hour. So some of the delivery riders and those bikes that are already on the road, they charge during a lunchtime or in between shifts or deliveries if it's needed.
Great. And okay, so who would you consider as your competitors in the UAE?
If we look at direct competitors, as in, like for like, there is no one else that's registered. Vespa, who I hold in the absolute highest of regard, I've owned several of them over the years, they can't get registered because their vehicles don't meet our criteria. So we really were and are first to market. However, I'm not saying that we don't have competition, we do. That's Yamaha, Bajaj and Honda. I'm not looking for One Moto to compete directly with them on brand, but when you start looking at the cost saving, and then 40% of our customers actually have a physical sustainability mandate they need to work to, there's very little that they can do other than the packaging for sustainability, recycling, biodegradable products and materials. The one thing that they can do is offset their emissions by reducing their cost of operation by switching to electric. So I suppose if we looked at who has the biggest fleet with the cash flow to be able to lease out vehicles as they are doing now, Easy Lease is the biggest player in the market. Got great respect for what they've built, and they are going to be, I suppose, going into some level of consideration of are they going to be switching to electric if their customers are asking for it. But that will come to a CapEx, OpEx. So do we try and raise the CapEx to be able to do it ourselves, or should we collaborate and partner with them is the question.
Great, thank you for the thorough explanation. I think that should answer that one pretty well. And okay, another question here. So what is the speed of these vehicles in comparison to those competitors?
So 85 kilometers an hour is the speed. And when we started building out the ratio, we can tune them. It's not really tuning, but we can program them to go up to 120, but then you get a lesser range. So range was important across every single one of the 30 customers or the 25, 26 customers we've spoken to. Speed wasn't. So it's registered on the roads, the RTA, everything's approved. So that's where we are now. We cannot get a vehicle that goes any faster. because technology just isn't there. But the good thing is the way we built the vehicles being modular, when it is there, we can apply it, and it's very simple. It won't affect our roadmap at all. It'll just make it more effective, I suppose.
And do you have any? Okay, another question come in. Do you have any competition directly from the Chinese? So I think you know, as you mentioned, you're manufacturing in China. Are they able to compete with you here and abroad?
I'd say it's a really good question. I'd say yes, anyone can compete if you look at it. You know, Renault compete with Nissan compete with Honda, and so on. So yes, of course, there's going to be competition. If you look at the Asian market, many of the say Chinese producers of anything focus on their domestic market because it's far greater, far easier. Everyone knows the landscape, the language, the culture. So there aren't any Chinese manufacturers that are producing for the international market, or certainly the Western market. Even if you take the size, frame, shape, performance of those vehicles that are available, they're smaller, they're lighter, they don't go as fast. There's a lot that they don't have. So yes, in time, will there be competition? I genuinely hope so, because it will help us raise our game. But for right now and for the foreseeable future, there's no one.
Okay. And we've got another one here. So, okay, what's the average lifetime of a one motor bike without any of the parts failing? So, and then brackets, how reliable are one motor bikes compared to traditional petrol powered bikes?
Lovely. I would like to answer that in two parts. So the first is the average motorcycle that you'll see on the roads have around 4,000 parts, and our vehicles have about 105. So the accessibility of changing anything that has got a problem, it's a vehicle, of course there's going to be issues. Even though there's no service and maintenance, of course there are going to be some hiccups along the way. We can change, because of the after sales relationship we've got with the dealership. They can change out the parts very inexpensively because we've pre-purchased a large volume of parts. So there's always going to be parts available. And the lifespan of the vehicle, because it's such new technology, we don't know. We have a 2 and 3 year, depending on the parts of the vehicle, warranty across absolutely everything. And we're also we're working out the economics of creating a 1++ care package. So within how that works is I can't do the dollar equation, but for 1,250 dirhams a year for 5 years, we will then replace all of those parts. So 1,250 dirhams paid per year for 5 years, we will replace every single one of those parts and give you a brand new bike at the end of that term, which then helps us raise the residual value. It ends up guaranteeing that we have a far greater second-hand market in terms of value, and we won't then have a flooding of, say, the petrol vehicles. They have like $2,000-3,000 dirham resale value after 3 years. So they have a lifespan of 2 to 3 years. We're looking at a lifespan of 3 to 5. I hope that answered the questions.
Yeah, and I think those are pretty comprehensive answers. So thank you for that, because I can see that we have a lot of interest, a lot of questions coming in, which is fantastic. So the next one is about the valuation. You have an $8 million valuation. How did you arrive at this? So I know that we have a DCF sheet that we can share, which, let me just say, is on the Eureeca platform. So if you go on there and you're registered as a user, you can go and request access to the private document. There's a document there that breaks it down and explains it. Of course, it is reliant a little bit on sales forecast. So without having to pull up a spreadsheet and go through every cell, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the sales pipeline and how that feeds into the valuation.
Thank you. Yeah, so we've had the company valued independently 3 times, and one of those was discussions with Eureeca of how do we position ourselves, and with a VC firm and then a separate advisor. And as many investors know, anyone that's gone through this, there's so many different variations of evaluation, and it's really what suits and what doesn't. One thing that I am is very conservative. So with the conversations I've had, I'm also very optimistic, but the conversations I've had are around 44 or just over 44,000 vehicles. When we start looking at just the food aggregators, and we're only talking delivery vehicles, we're not talking about the rest that are going through the screen now. We've only forecasted on delivery. We realize that the fleet managers, fleet operators have a contract. Usually they're about 2-year contract to lease out the petrol motorcycles currently. But most of the companies, if not all of them that I've spoken to, have a certain amount of fleet and they own, so that liability or asset. And what we're doing for our conservative 10% market share is just focused on transitioning out the current liability, which are between 2 and 4 years old. Some are 7, but most of them 2 to 4 years old, switching just those out and basing those figures alone and just focusing on the UAE market, we've come up with that valuation. When we start expanding by 2028, we want 100 cities, 100,000 vehicles. No one actually knows where we're going to be in 2028. Are we going to go through a private sale? Where's the world or where's the economy going to be? So we've been very, very conservative on the figures and the revenue that could potentially come in just from the 44,000 without being overzealous or over optimistic. We're really scaling that down to, I think it's around the 3% conversion rate. Now, if we can't convert more than 3%, I'm personally in absolutely wrong business, and we're not a business to invest in. 3% is shocking. We're actually selling vehicles to customers that haven't even seen them. We've got a new shipment of demo bikes coming in the country at the end of October. So anyone that's in Dubai, more than welcome to come and have a test ride. So we are looking, I believe that 1,500 vehicles will be achieved by Q1 next year. And I believe that the 10% is going to be closer to 20 because of the government stimulus. But that's really where we're sat.
Perfect. And look, I understand we're running a bit short on time, Adam, but we have got a lot of questions coming, a lot of interest. So I'm going to try and do this a little bit as a quick fire round, and then we're going to also be able to catch up with some of these investors offline as well. So we'll keep these questions. If we don't come to your question, we will reach out to you after the event. So yeah, a bit of a quick fire round. What is your plan to improve the efficiency, i.e. increasing the kilometer per charge?
That will be down to battery technology.
Okay, so the modular aspect that you mentioned, you'll be able to swap batteries in and out. You'll be able to
absolutely. So if the batteries get more powerful and smaller, we'll just swap out our supplier. We've done it once, so we can just keep doing that again because of the way the batteries are, the vehicles are built.
And how quickly can you satisfy demand with your supply chain if your forecasts come true?
Currently 3,000 units a month, but we can extend that with an extra production line to 10,000 a month.
Okay. And okay, again, on charging, can the drivers charge their own bikes, or do they need a proprietary charge similar to Tesla?
No, absolutely. They all charge with a 3-pin standard 240, 110 volt, depending on where you are in the world. And you can either charge the bike straight away just by plugging it in, or you can take the battery out, replace it with a new one, take the battery out and plug that into the wall. So you've got various different options.
And what is the life of the battery? So it says Tesla gives an 8-year warranty. What's yours?
It's 1,000 cycles, which is about 3 years. That's manufacturer's warranty from the manufacturer of the battery.
Got it. Feedback on the vehicle so far? Have there been any issues with reliability? And only the warranty part I think you've answered already. But any feedback? So any issues with reliability when you've tested these with customers?
No, there's been no negative feedback. There's been only the shift of, do we go for a CapEx or OpEx option? Is there something that we can do for credit finance, for lease terms and so on? That's been the only, I suppose, bottleneck in conversion. There's been, I've personally tested, these vehicles are built for the hot climates. And if they work in hot climates, then they work in cooler climates as well. So I've personally tested them for 3 months during the summer in Dubai. And as we all know, it gets up to around 50 degrees. So they're built for this climate, which is a very, very important factor.
And where are you producing the batteries?
The batteries are produced we were using Panasonic, and Panasonic weren't producing a battery that were up to the needs of us. So then we switched to LG. We've got the ability to switch between battery providers according to who are producing the best. So currently our battery providers are LG.
Okay. And have you made any arrangements with the banks for the leasing part of your business, and what kind of financing do you anticipate you'll require?
So we operate negative cash conversion cycle, so we don't actually need cash for operation. It would only be for the leasing. And because we only launched in December last year, so 2019, we are a bit too young to be able to get the credit finance or the credit line. We are speaking to banks, and we're also speaking to a fintech. It's a fintech startup that already has the credit line. So by the end of this month, I believe that we'll be able to make that announcement.
Okay, and can you tell us a bit more about the technical and design brain behind the company? Is there a vehicle expert that's within the company as well?
Yeah, so we've got engineer designers that are the sort of design engineers, I suppose, as well as the QC, the tech. You've got myself from the brand and understanding vehicles and motorbikes for the past 23 plus years. Plus, we built this vehicle, as I said, in the early days, we were saying to Kareem, as well as others, because it was all part of our market study, what do you need from a delivery bike? So we've built these vehicles based on fitting a need and solving a problem.
Okay, and I think you've answered this, but when will your delivery vehicle be available in the UAE, and when will you lease? Will you lease or sell only? So I think you've talked a little bit about the leasing, and it's a bit dependent on the financing side, but when will it be available? So when are those pilots starting with those larger customers?
They start first week of November throughout Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah.
And those are some pretty big names. I know you can't say exactly who are doing those pilots.
It wouldn't be right to say those trials, but also it's not right for me to say the customers that have actually bought and paid as well, because they're developing a huge PR, social, environmental, sustainable announcement surrounding this. So it's quite a big activity for them, or for
Okay.
us as well.
And yes, of course. So for the question, will you send the presentation to us? Of course, yes. It's available on the Eureeca site, but I'll make sure to do that and connect you with Adam as well. So thank you for that, Mohammed. Let's put this in here. Okay, I think we're going to try and get through again a couple more, and then we may need to move on here. So how does it fit in with the on-demand sharing agency with eCar and UDrive, for example?
Oh, very good. In the UAE, the soft, or say shared mobility surrounding micromobility isn't quite developed yet. The regulations, policies aren't quite in black and white at the moment. However, we are working with the RTA very closely. We've got a wonderful relationship to help them understand, also for us to understand what their needs are to find that problem. So we are planning, and we've been asked, and I hope this is all right to say, that what eCar and UDrive are for, say, per kilometer in terms of transport, and what Kareem are for bikes, we're going to be hopefully offering the solution for motorcycles and other transport forms.
Well, without saying too much, I think there's somebody I can connect you to there. So I will do that after this. After this, I've had a private message. Okay, so we've got any limitation on weight. So I assume that's for the riders, but also the delivery cargo.
So yeah, there's 150 kilo payload. Although I think it's 180 actually. It's 180 kilos, and it's all on the spec sheets, and they're all downloadable from the website. And for the delivery van, it's 1,500 kilos. Again, all the stats and facts of the vehicles are available on the spec sheets that you can download to be 100% accurate.
Okay, and then we've got a couple of questions about safety. So have they been safety tested and crash tested?
Absolutely, yeah. When I said right at the very beginning, we're approved, certified, registered, all of our vehicles have EEC certification. And for those that may not know, if they're allowed on the European roads, that is the highest benchmark globally that other governments and other legislative transport agencies look at. and all of our vehicles are EEC registered. So if they're allowed on those roads, we have to supply the EEC certificate in order to have them approved on the roads of the UAE.
Okay. And okay, I think we've talked a little bit about the traction you're getting with credit providers in regards to working capital requirements, but we can pick that one up again later through email. So as you mentioned, you're already in talks with a fintech, and you've also had some conversations with banks, and there are
Absolutely,
some
but just one last point on that is we don't need to, if we get an order for X 100 vehicles, we can just get that individual credit line and then go to another, depending upon the financeability of that lender, we can then start increasing. So to answer the question earlier about what do we need in terms of capital, it depends upon the orders that come in. So anyone that we have the discussion with will find out what that scope or what that budget is, or what their potential investment is, and then just take tranches as per orders come in.
Okay, and last two questions, and again, apologies that we're not going to get through all of these questions, but we will come back to them via email or through connecting you with Adam. So how long will the current funding round last? When is the next funding round anticipated? And also, the second question is, when are you planning on turning cash positive? Those are the two finance questions we have here.
Okay, you'll have to download the finance to know, but I believe if we meet the target, will be cash. We operate negative cash conversion cycle, so in terms of cash positive, we are on every sale. If you then start looking at the operation, we've got very low burn rate, and I believe it's in month 5 from September, maybe August. So sorry, from month 5, so it'll be May next year, June next year. But to be accurate, all the financials are on the that you can download. What we're looking at investment wise is, I believe that Eureeca closes around the 31st of December. And then we're going to be looking potentially at a working capital round, which will be around $1 to $2 million as of next year, which will be very much focused on growth. I don't actually believe we will need to go for working capital if we just start achieving the results by the end of this year, which we've already signed some contracts. If we then look at the manufacturing, which will then be at, say, towards the end of next year, we'd be looking at a 5 to 10 mil raise, obviously all dollars, but that will then come with a very different valuation as of today.
Perfect. So we will connect you with all these other investors. There are a lot of questions coming in for you and One Moto, so that's absolutely fantastic. Adam, thank you so much. If you could stop sharing your screen, we'll move on.
Thank you very much for all your questions.